have of design, then vibration, then topology optimization, and how it is done. I'll be showing all those things. Okay. So can I share my PPT? Let me how to share this.
Yes, sir, sure.
My screen is visible now.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Today's lecture will mainly focus on structural design and topology optimization. And I'll also talk about that merely structural static analysis is not sufficient to get the final result. So we usually do topology optimization on the structure. So earlier how industry used to work. So they start with the design. So for finite element method, design is a must, or for that matter, if you do CFD or any other design. Then after design is done, and design is earlier they used to do in drafter and all the things. Nowadays, everything is being now industry prefers to do in CA environment using softwares. So when design is done, then there is the next step is prototypes. Okay, so one prototype is done, then you go for testing, so that you can find out the failures. Okay, then if during the failure, if you see any during testing you see any failure, then you go back to design, change the design, come back to prototypes, again do testing. So the optimization loop was between design and the testing. I'm talking about 60s, 70s, 80s, until 90s also. This method industry used to follow. And then if the failures are removed, or most of the failures are addressed, then you go for mass production. Okay. Now this process earlier used to take a lot of time. Okay. In a sense, you will have many number of prototypes because you are testing the your product in actual real scenario in the field, and again you have to come and modify. It takes a lot of time. So the design or design cycle of a product used to be in months and years depending upon the product. Now the things have changed a lot. Now how industry today they do is, of course this design part is same. Okay, they will design. Then the CAE has come. One intermediate step. CAE is basically computer aided design. Okay, where you do all kind of engineering with the help of computers. Then you go for prototypes, testing. Okay, and then if there is a failure, again to come back to the design. But in the most of the failures are taken care in the design, in the CI design in the CI stage only here. Okay, and for this reason you will have very less number of prototypes. Okay, so your testing procedure will be very fast, and you can launch your product in the market quite ahead of your competition. Okay, but the problem today is now industry need a lot of CI professionals who can do really good job. But the problem is in academia, we don't give them that kind of training to our student, due to which they can go directly and get a job. So today industry prefer a professional who are, let's say, you will see all the advertisement, they will ask for 2-year experience, 3-year experience. Okay, and there is a reason for this. The reason is when they hire a fresher, the fresher will take maybe around 2 to 3 year times. This is what I have observed, to learn all these processes, CAE and the application part. They know theory in their curriculum, but the practical aspect is missing, be it CAE or for that matter any other aspect. So the industry spend a lot of time and money in training these freshers, and by the time after 2 and 3 years, these engineers, they know something, and their time, when time comes for delivery, they actually think that now they can switch the company and leave the company. So after 3 years, after getting all kind of training, they leave. This is what happening in industry. So the industry, then why the industry will spend so much of time and money on a freshers? The only way to actually solve that problem is to train our engineer in CAE method, at least in the college, in this college itself. And I'll tell you how. Means FEM or CAE are not a, I must say it's not a rocket science. Very it's very simple if you want to teach that way. I'll come back to those part. Now see so in optimization loop. So initial design, I'll come back to this. Initial design may look like a solid body, but when you do the optimization topology optimization, in topology optimization, basically we remove the material and get the shape. So we will get a design like this, okay, which is lighter and more stiffer and longer life. Okay, so why we do design optimization is this. See the reason. Now, if you see the phase of product development, you can see this one. Initially the number of possible design alternatives here, you are here initially, is much more. Okay, and the cost of changes are again very less. So initially whatever you do changes, okay, it will not have much cost to the product, and you have a lot of design freedom here. But the problem is here you don't have any knowledge what kind of product and it will be initially. So though you have less knowledge, but you have more freedom. But as you go on changing, as time progresses during the development, so any small changes in the design will have a very high cost. And there are many reasons for this, because already your die and other machinery are set up for mass production, and any changes in drawing, then you have to change all the downstream design and layout. So it's very costly process. So initially here you have a lot of freedom to do a lot of concept ideas. You can generate a lot of concepts. Okay, many designs. Okay, so though you have a lot of design freedom here, so you have a lot of also so the concept design and optimization is possible only at the initial stages. Okay, and as you go on, of course, at the time our product knowledge become better and better. You know how the product will behave, how failure will happen, design is fixed. So your product knowledge is higher later on. So see, I always believe everything in life comes with a price. So we gain something, then we also lose something. For example, you don't have any product knowledge initially, what to do, what not to do, how to design, where will be failure. But later we all come to know that what we should do and how to design. Okay, so for initial design concept, we go for the topology optimization. Of course, there is a design optimization also. There is a difference between the design optimization and topology optimization. I'll come back to that. Okay, so we redesign. Later on, if you do redesign, of course, this we call it in industry. This is reverse engineering or value engineering, where once the product is launched, again we keep on changing the design so that cost and material can be reduced. Okay, but again this is done at the later stages. But if initial stage design is good, so the customer will be happy. You have a good goodwill of your customer, and the product will really do good in the market if the initial design is good. Okay, so consider this one. So this is one simple cantilever beam. Okay, and for a given volume, so you apply a force. So if it is 1 bar, okay, and for the same given force, let's say deflection is some deflection is 2.5 mm. Okay, volume is same here. You can see if you keep the volume of material remaining same, and if you convert into a 2 bar, okay, so it will be like this. So if you fix it here and apply a force here, so the shape has changed. Okay, material remaining same. So you see that its deflection has reduced. So it is in FEM term, it is called more stiffer. Mass remains same. Now, if you go for more, if you reduce more and more complexity of the design, okay, for the same volume, you further it is your deflection has reduced. Okay, and actually we need a more stiffer part to resist the forces and the dynamic loads. Okay, but again this is comes with a price. Okay, so manufacturing of this bar, one bar is very easy, whereas for 17 bars if you will go, it's very difficult. So it means the cost will be higher here. If you go here, now you can see that from 1 bar to 17 bar, so you have a more design freedom. Okay, so you have a better performance because of your deflections are reduced. Okay, so but again it comes with a price, become more complex. Okay, so more difficult to optimize and manufacture. And in terms of cost, of course, so if your design becomes complex, so when your design becomes complex, your cost also will increase. Okay, so there is always an what we call compromise. So you gain at some end, so you pay at other end. Okay. So I will simply so before I go, you can see these are the designs. Okay, see custom designed for a cancer patient chest. He lost actually some of its ribs and other things. So these designs actually are a result of this topology optimization. So we provide also some kind of porosity inside in the design. Okay, so this porosity actually helps in bone growth and the tissue and the blood transfusion. So this is possible today because of this 3D printing has already come in the market. Okay, so even if your design is complex, you can print any complex design and test it. Okay, so there are other, you can see the orthopedic implants using the additive manufacturing. So at the kneecap, and you can see here again the porosity. I'll come back. I'll come to this how this porosity you can optimize. Okay, its thickness and length. Okay, then there is also this is the I think this is 3D implant, 3D printed spinal cord implant, and the process you can see here. This matrix is there, small matrix is there, and this actually this has been you got through topology optimization, which I'll cover soon. Okay, there are other examples. This is a 3D printed part using the design has been achieved using. Okay, so a lot of examples are there. I will not go into even the engineering applications. For example, heat exchanger. We have now. See, there is a two way to actually teach a course. Since I think all of you are a teacher, so so recently when I was in IIT Mandi, so we plan to teach a radiation heat transfer course. Okay, and there is a process that so whenever we propose a new course, it has to be sent to some professor for a comment. Now this Professor J. Srinivasan, actually he is from IIC. He was my PhD guide. So his comment was this when we actually he sent his comment that see this today this today don't have much mathematical background. Okay, they used to what they used to be few years ago. So hence any course, the way the course is taught nowadays has radically changed. Okay, the student must be encouraged to use standard software to solve the radiation problem in this case. So rather than he's telling that rather than focusing on spending time in coding, then use those solvers to focus on the analysis part, so that student can do more interpretation rather than spending time in developing the code, which has already been done by many people in industry and the software. Okay, so he is telling this that the course should stress on the design and performance study. Okay, not on basically giving them a jargon of formulas and the derivation and the solving it by using small coding. It takes a lot of time, of course. That knowledge is also needed, but I think nowadays the earlier in 80s and 90s we hardly had any laptop, and even during time if anybody has laptop, then it will, the memory today that time was at few MB, 5 MB or 10 MB RAM. Today we don't talk about that. We talk about the GB of RAMs, 8 GB, 16 GB, 32 GB in RAMs, and CPU you talk about gigahertz. Earlier it was megahertz. So things have changed drastically, but again the teaching process has remained mostly the same. Means what used to be taught in the 70s and early 80s, the same process is being taught to the student. So I believe, see, at the end of the day, doesn't matter which software you use or what design you use or what method you use. Ultimately, the software or whenever you do anything, it has to be on the design. Okay, and the software or the analysis part should help you in taking a decision. Remember, at the end of the day, irrespective of your all the processes behind in the FEM theory and the. So if you focus more on the design concepts and design, so that the student can think of a lot of innovations, how to make a more effective design, that they can think of the startups and entrepreneurs rather than being stuck in some the age-old methodology. Okay, for example, when you buy, let's say, a laptop or a mobile, we don't talk about that either I know the Android coding or not. I should be a good user at least. Okay, when you buy a car or a mobile, you don't know how engine and other functions, but at least the engine should be good, and I should be a good driver at least. Okay, so if you focus on that, this applied part, then you can actually take the advantage of today's the softwares and the computational power. Okay, so I mostly believe in this. So those days are not far away when we teach strength of material. So you will be asked to teach strength of material plus FEM. And those who are teaching, let's say, fluid mechanics, then fluid mechanics plus CFD together. Today it is basically, even after 4th year of graduation, students hardly know how to do an FEM, how to apply boundary condition and see the result. Or for that simple, let's say a beam deflection, PL/Q by 3EI, whatever formula is there, they don't know, they cannot simulate and so that this is the theoretical result, this is my FEM result. Because this is not the fault of the student, I believe. Student, whatever you will teach, student will learn. So as a faculty, it is our responsibility to teach them in such a way that they will grasp the concepts of the applied part. Okay, so even today there are been talk, you can see there's a workshop on simulation based engineering. Okay, and why a lot of discussion is happening is because the academic they want to fill the skill gap so that they can serve the industry. Industry is more interested in basically the output design. It doesn't matter which industry you go starting from this mobile to laptop to car or aerospace, they all deal with the software. No code development. If that something is needed, they do some their subroutines and then put it. If it's not, then the software. They mostly deal with the applied part because they don't want to spend time in the developing codes and other things. But again, it is expected that students should know what is happening in the background. What is this then trial function? What is error? What is Euler's method? All the things they are also expected to know at least. Okay. So how the design optimization works is, so we have an initial design. Okay. Then you apply all the boundary conditions and give the constraint here. Suppose you want to reduce the here in this case is 40% of the initial volume, or maybe it can be a 90% of the initial volume. So you will get a new design. Okay, then once you get the new design, then you get the optimized design. Okay, and perform the again structural analysis and see whether it meets your required criteria or not. for stresses and deflection, all of this. This is how the design optimization work. Okay, so design optimization basically gives you a new shape. Okay, so for example, you start with this initial shape, it will give you a new design shape having less mass and more stiffness. So there is one more example. I have taken an example from the company which they provided me, Altair Engineering. So you can see this is one antenna in the space. Okay, and if the antenna is entirely, let's say, solid, so it will more heavier. Okay, and you know, to transport 1 kg of mass from Earth to the space, it is approximately take about 10 lakh rupees. Now you can think of how this optimizing the design is important. Okay, so your target is always mass reduction. Okay, then you have to increase the frequency. I'll talk about why you talk about the frequency also. Okay, so frequency is most of the time when you do some dynamic loading. Okay, and you want to increase the frequency. So why, I'll also discuss what is the importance of frequency and why we do it. Okay, so basically, if you structure now, you can see all these ribs are provided wherever it is needed. Okay, so it improves the strength, okay, stiffness, stability, and also a reduced mass. This is what the topology does for us. Okay, so there are many examples of shapes with reduced mass. The bridge design we call it optimized design with material removal and less weight. So it works like this. So design optimization always have a objective function. What you want to do, either you want to minimize the mass or maximize the stiffness. Okay, let's say, so if you, let's say, want to minimize the mass, for example, you want to remove the 50% or 60% or whatever mass from the original design. So what will be the constraint there? So when you remove a mass, so the your structure should not fail, of course. Then when you remove mass, the structure will become basically weak. It's the law of nature. So your constraint should be, let's say, stress. So remove so much mass in such a way that the stress should not exceed so and so. So there is a limitation of stress, or in software basically use the what we call factor of safety. So it's the same. So either is a stress or factor of safety will determine how much stresses will induce. Okay, and of course the and then how we describe the design, there are design variables. So we provide the constraint where so you can provide a draw direction or something symmetry. So those are the design variables which I will discuss. Okay, so in topology optimization, so in shape optimization, the shape it contours remain so only a distribution of mass. Okay, so in topology basically you remove the mass. Okay, and where to remove you don't know initially. I'll also talk about how this software works in the behind. Okay, and it gives a new shape. So we keep on removing the material. Okay, so in topology optimization, so there is a design region, which we say that from this design region remove the mass. And there is also called this where you apply the boundary conditions. It is not a part of the design region because you cannot apply a load or a boundary condition on the design region because you are removing the material. If the material is removed on a given location, and if you apply a load, then it will not work. So it will become unstable. So there are basically two regions. One is the design in topology optimization. So one is the design space when material has to be removed, and other is one more region where you apply the boundary conditions where nothing is removed. So it doesn't affect. So its shape and size here doesn't affect your final final design. Okay, but of course the boundary conditions will affect the design region. So how the new design will evolve. So finally, so we will have a new shape. Okay, given the constraint. So optimization is nothing without constraint. It can give any shape which you cannot manufacture actually. So you have to give some constraint so that manufacturability is maintained. Okay, so I'll not go into theoretically. I hope somebody might have covered. There are various method of optimization method. Basically, they are all density method. So wherever the stresses or the strain is 0, so they will remove the material. Okay, and basically densities varies from 0 to 1, and they play all with the densities. Okay, the some method in homogenization method, they actually do some interpolation of densities, and if the density is below a threshold limit, it will remove the, so it will consider as a void. When the density is above or nearly 1, so they will put the material. So I will not go into those details. Okay. So as I said, so the function can be designed. Then you have constraint of natural frequency. You have constraint of mass. Okay, you have to work on the given constraint during the design. Okay, so as I said, there is a size optimization, shape optimization, and topology optimization. I'm not going to detail. So let's say this given problem, you apply a load. So you can have in shape optimization or size, we'll only deal with the parameters length, breadth, and height, and we'll keep changing to meet the required criteria. Okay, now you can see in the size optimization. So you can have a thin link. So in the next case, you'll get a thick link, but the shape remains same. Okay, shape here also it works. So it will try to distribute the nodes or the loads in such a way that your given criteria is maintained. So your shape is maintained to apply to get the required criteria. And then in topology optimization, it works on the removal. So here you can see, so your density is 0. Here the green one, the density is 1. They work on some method and keep on removing the material so that we achieve the same goal. Okay, I will not go into this. For example, this bridge, I will take an example later on. So I will design a bridge and see what kind of boundary conditions are applied, because boundary conditions affect your result. In FEM, boundary conditions play a big role. Okay, for if you just simply change in boundary condition from, let's say, from fixed to roller bearing or something, there will be a slight change in your output also. So you start with a design space. Okay, apply create a non-design space where you apply your boundary conditions, and again you deal with the then further how it is dealt. I will be covering those things. So okay, I'm not going to those details. So I already covered this, how this design optimization work. I'm not going to theory part. I hope theory, a lot of theory has been covered already. Okay, so as I said, in a design there is two main criteria. So one is the static load. Okay, so the structure should be able to bear the static load, and it should not allow to induce more stresses or stresses near its ultimate or failure or yield strength. Number one. Now, apart from that, there is one more design concept. We call it this dynamic loading. So when there is a vibration, there are a lot of components where you need to design the structure based upon the vibration. For example, the design of the buildings. Okay, design of the let's say when you're designing a car or an aeroplane. So when there is engine, so the basic source of excitation is the engine. Now suppose you bought a bike, for example, and then what you should actually feel, that you should feel that you should feel sound should be solid, and whenever you put your hand while driving on the, let's say you are holding the handle, that is called tactile point, handle and the footrest and the seat where we sit. We should not have more vibration. Of course, vibration should be such that the rider will not feel. Okay, so if it is vibration is high, that is also considered as a form of failure in industry. It's not only the yield failure by yielding or cracking is not the only. If the structure, let's say your product start making more noise, for example, that noise is also a form of failure. That may not be actual failure, structural failure, but when the structure start vibrating more and or producing more noise, then that is also considered as a kind of failure. Okay, for example, let's say you buy a costly car, let's say worth crores, let's say Mercedes-Benz or something like that. So when you sit inside, it should feel like it is pin drop silence. Okay, so nobody wants. Just hold on, I think. Okay, so you have to design your car in such a way that the either driver or the person sitting inside the car will not feel the vibration. Vibration from where? From the engine and the roads, of course. So for car, the excitation also comes from the road and the engine. They are the two main source of excitation. So you have to design. So first of all, that then before you optimize the design on the vibration point of view, one should have understanding then how this vibration work, how that this you call it this frequency and the resonance. You all know that whenever this frequency of the structure and the frequency of the exciting force, the force which is applied from the outside, should not match. And if it matches, basically we get the resonance. But the problem is when resonance will occur, you don't know unless you find out what are the natural frequency of this structure and which frequency is going to actually match with the frequency of the external force. Only then resonance will occur or a lot of vibrations will occur. Okay, so any structure, I repeat, so I'm saying any structure is having infinite natural frequency. Okay, starting from depending upon the shape, design, and the boundary conditions, it will save and the way it will vibrate is called mode shape. In FEM, it is very common thing where you call it. So how mode shape is basically the modes or the shapes with the way the structure vibrate. Okay, so and corresponding to the modes of vibration, there is corresponding one frequency. Okay, so here let me show you one see this one. No, sound is coming. So this see there are three structures put. I want to just make you understand how the concept of resonance and how we will design. Okay, using software. Just soon I will just it will follow after this. Now see the three mass M remains same. Okay, so it will help you. This video will help you understanding the concept of resonance. Okay, and it doesn't occur at the same frequency. So I'll also discuss about what is the frequency in terms of layman language, which you can understand. Now see, so there's three mass they put on a shaker, vibrating shaker, and the only difference between these three structures is the height. Now by seeing that, one can say that the structure having the more length here, in this case the right one is weak in layman language. So it will vibrate first at lower frequency. I hope you can understand what I am talking. Okay, everything remaining same. Okay, now as I said, every structure is having infinite natural frequency, and which natural frequency will be excited for resonance depends upon its design instinct. Now see, the all three are placed on the same shaker. Okay, video sound is coming. Can anyone give a feedback?
No, sir.
You are not able to hear the video.
Sound is not clear, but
Video
video is
sound is
visible.
not coming.
Video
Okay,
is
so
visible.
anything else? I don't know.
The video is visible and the vibration is also visible in the video.
Okay, so I think it should be fine.
But
But
sound
I
is not
can-
audible.
So just hold. I'm getting. Hello. अच्छा तो हाँ मेरे पास है, मैं क्लास कर रहा हूँ, अभी कहाँ पे हैं अभी आप? अच्छा ठीक है, भेज रहे हैं, ठीक है ठीक। Okay, so I don't know whether sound is not coming. Okay, so here. So there must be some setting, I don't know where to apply. My microphone sounds something, while joining it asks where to, whether you want your device sound. Device setting. Okay, so let okay. Right. Okay. So here now you can see this only the structure.
Yes, sir.
Is getting excited at a lower frequency. It means lower frequency in layman language set is low energy required to move that structure. Okay. Now you have increased the frequency. The frequency is now vibrating at a higher frequency this second. Now see at higher frequency the next structure is getting excited here. Okay. So at a higher hertz. Now even though the other two are there in the same, they are not feeling the vibration. Okay, because the external frequency and the frequency of the structure is matching only for, in this case, for the middle one. First two, the last two, the first and the third one are not getting affected, even if they are on a vibrating table. The first two are having as if that is static. Frequency is not necessarily at a higher frequency. Now you can see.
Sir, your voice is breaking now.
Yes.
Now it is clear.
No sound was coming.
Yes, sir. Previously the sound of this structure is coming. Now your voice is clear.
Okay, so just I think I need to send my some address proof urgently. Somebody is waiting, so just a couple of minutes I need. Just please bear with me. Just I'm doing. Just I need to send it. It's done. So, send it. Okay, so I'm done. Sorry for the. Okay, so now you have seen here is, so let me explain. So sometimes what happens is frequency and all things looks very complicated. So my screen is visible.
Yes, sir, it is visible.
Now let me explain in terms of very simple language what I mean by frequency and the vibration. Now see, always remember, so the structure which is weak will vibrate at a lower frequency, or it means one can excite it easily with at a lower frequency. So in this case, the right one here, since because of its length, it can deflect more, so it will have a lower frequency. It means low energy is needed to make it vibrate. The simple language. Now, as this structure become more and more stiffer, now you can see this, the lower one is more stiffer. So if you have like a cantilever beam whose length is small, it will be more stiffer to bend it. So it requires more energy or higher frequency to excite it. That's what it means. So when we do the optimization of a structure, we ideally look for a stiff structure whose frequency is very high, so that any structure or the external force cannot match the frequency of the structure, and hence there will be no resonance. This is clear, I think. आपको clear हो गया मैं क्या बोलना चाह रहा हूँ. So when you do these design changes of any structure, so as I said, there will be many frequencies. Okay, infinite natural frequency. All natural frequencies are not troublesome. In a sense, all natural frequency cannot be excited by some outside force like engine or the road. Only given a particular frequency which will be troubling the structure. So to redesign a structure in such a way that the external frequency will not match the frequency of the structure. So what we do, we make it more stiffer by adding ribs or whatever design. So if you make a structure more stiffer, what will happen? Its frequency will increase, or it become more energy will be required to make it vibrate. It will not be that easy. That's what you have to keep in mind when you design. Okay, so I hope this example has absolutely clear ho gaya hoga. So I have explained in a very simple language, which should not be a problem to you. Now, just to show you how this, because time is running out, I used to teach this week, so I will not. See, I'm going to show you this how the natural frequency will look like. Many of us have not seen that the modes of vibration of different modes of vibration, so you cannot imagine. So today I'm going to show you the modes of vibration through experiment what we see, and through also I'm going to show you by modeling using the software. So once this Tesla said that if you want to find the secret of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. Now see, so this is one shaker or a vibrator where I am actually can vibrate. Okay, and here we are sprinkling a salt over it, just to show how the plate is vibrating. Okay. Now you can see we are increasing the frequency. So basically this shape is called modes of vibration. You can see. So why this salt is all these salts are segregating at one place and not other place. So here, so they are segregating where there is minimum vibration. So they are going there. So wherever the maximum vibration, the salt is getting dispersed. So at a given frequency, here it says is 345. The plate is vibrating like this, which we cannot see through naked eyes. Okay. So if you increase more and if you increase the frequency, now see how this structure is becoming more and more complex. These are called the modes of vibration. So one is here is the modes of vibration, and here is the frequency, corresponding frequency is this. So if the structure were to vibrate at this frequency, for example, here 3240 Hz, the structure will look like this. As simple as that. Okay, so at a given frequency, the structure will vibrate in a given way. And all the modes of vibration will be different from the other. This is also one beautiful aspect of nature. So as you keep on increasing frequency, all frequencies are different. So the modes of vibration also will be different. As simple as that. So we are actually sprinkling more and more salt because we require more salt to get that structure. So in FEM language, we need to refine more and more. Mesh size should be more smaller and smaller when you go for higher frequency. Okay. Now see this structure we can hardly see through naked eyes, which I'm going to just now. So you can see this design criteria, then I'll go for topology optimization. And this is happening automatic. They are adjusting the depending upon this frequency. Go for further higher. And this is a very simple experiment you can have also at your institute to show the students about this modes of vibration and its frequencies. And you can actually tell the student that these modes of vibration are not easily seen because exciting the structure at this frequency is really tough in a sense in practical. So what we usually say is when there is structure, there is a cantilever beam. It is fixed from one end, so it will simply do this. One is the bending mode, or you can twist, or basically these lower frequencies. These higher frequencies are actually not, we don't see in our daily life. But it is there. They said in the beginning, any structure is having infinite natural frequencies. Remember, given and which natural frequencies are corresponding to our excitation force, only those frequencies you have to address. Okay. So now, after seeing this modes of vibration, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just simply show you the modes of vibration using software, and just in case you want to target a given frequency. So remember, we design any structure based on dynamic load to change its stiffness or in other word, to change its frequency, so that that frequency or given frequency should not match the frequency of the external exciting force. That's all about the vibration and nothing else. So there are lot of things there, but ultimate goal is only this, so that my structure will not vibrate at a given frequency. I want to avoid. So what we do in industry is we know the external frequency vibration, you know the engine RPM, just divide by, you will get the